sharp crack of skin against skin cut through the hushed luxury of the first-class cabin. Naomi Carter's head jerked to the side, her cheeks stinging as she tightened her hold on her 6-month-old daughter Amara. The baby wailed at the sudden violence, her tiny body trembling against her mother's chest. The woman who had struck her flight attendant, Lydia Moore, straightened her pressed Navy uniform with a chilling calm, her silver wings glinting beneath the cabin lights as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "Control your screaming brat," she said coldly, her voice rising for the benefit of the passengers. "Or I'll have security remove you both from this aircraft immediately." For a few moments, there was stunned silence. Then came the whispers. An elderly woman in pearls nodded approvingly, leaning toward her seatmate with the faintest smile. Finally, she murmured someone with backbone. A businessman across the aisle gave a curt nod, relief plain on his face. Thank God someone's maintaining standards. These people always think they can do whatever they want. Naomi's cheek burned, but she didn't cry out. Her dark eyes remained steady, even as her hands trembled slightly while adjusting Amara's blanket. She said nothing, her boarding pass resting openly on her lap seat 2A, marked with a special gold status code. Lydia Moore had ignored it completely, just as she had ignored the humanity of the woman holding a frightened child. Phones appeared almost instantly. Passengers leaned into the aisle, recording the incident as if it were entertainment. For many of them, it was. A college student whispered to her TikTok audience, her voice breathless with excitement. "Y'all, this is insane. This flight attendant just slapped a mom with a baby. I can't even." Her viewer count began climbing hundreds, then thousands. But the comments scrolling across her screen didn't rally to Naomi's side. They sided with the flight attendant. Finally, someone disciplining bad parents. Why can't people control their kids on flights? That mom looks entitled AF. Each word was a lash, compounding the humiliation. Naomi didn't defend herself. She didn't argue or shout. She simply rocked Amara gently, whispering soft words into her daughter's ear, though no one could hear them over the baby's cries. Amara's tiny fist curled around Naomi's finger, an innocent gesture that should have melted hearts. Instead, it only deepened the passenger's disdain. Lydia pulled out her radio with theatrical authority. "Captain Harris, we have a code yellow in first class. Disruptive passenger with infant refusing to comply with crew instructions. I recommend immediate removal before departure. She's already delayed us 8 minutes with this tantrum." The radio crackled. "Copy that, Lydia," the captain's voice replied. "Ground security is standing by." Naomi glanced down at her phone. 14 minutes until departure. Beneath the clock glowed a text notification, corporate legal. Merger announcement scheduled for 2 p.m. EST. All systems ready. She quickly tucked the phone away before Lydia could notice her face composed, though her pulse hammered. "Excuse me," Naomi said quietly, her voice calm, almost fragile. "My ticket shows seat 2A. I paid for first-class service, and I'd appreciate..." Lydia cut her off with a sharp laugh that sliced through the cabin. "Honey, I don't care what scam you pulled to get that ticket. People like you always try to upgrade illegally. I know every trick in the book." Passengers chuckled. Phones kept recording. The college student's livestream surged past 5,000 viewers, the flood of comments scrolling faster than she could read. The narrative had already been written: disruptive, mother-crying baby, professional flight attendant, forced to act. Naomi's silence only seemed to irritate them further. The businessman in the expensive suit muttered loudly enough for others to hear. "Some of us have important business to attend to. This circus is costing us valuable time." The elderly woman in pearls leaned forward again, her voice sharp as a blade. In my day, parents knew how to travel with dignity. This display is absolutely shameful. Naomi's only response was to kiss Amara's forehead gently. The baby's cries began to soften, soothed not by the passenger's glares, nor the captain's threats, but by her mother's steady heartbeat. Lydia smirked, mistaking Naomi's quietness for submission. "Ma'am," she announced loudly, making sure every passenger and every recording phone heard her. "If you can't manage your child appropriately, I have every right to request your removal from this aircraft." Airline policy is very clear about disruptive passengers. From her carry-on bag, Naomi retrieved a bottle of formula. As she reached inside, a flash of platinum caught the cabin light. Tucked between diapers and bottles was a sleek card, its design unlike standard frequent flyer cards. She quickly pushed it deeper into the bag before anyone could get a proper look. Her phone buzzed again. This time the caller ID lit up clearly, Skylink Airways Executive Office. A few passengers nearby saw it. Naomi pressed decline. Lydia's eyes narrowed like a predator closing in. "Who exactly do you think you're calling?" she sneered. "Your baby daddy isn't going to save you from federal aviation regulations." The insult was another slap sharper even than the first. A few passengers chuckled, nodding approvingly at Lydia's confidence. The college student filming whispered to her viewers, "Oh my God, this is wild." "She just said that. I can't believe it." Her viewer count jumped past 10,000. The weight of judgment bore down from every direction, but Naomi sat steady, her arms wrapped protectively around her daughter. Her composure was unsettling, almost eerie, as though she carried knowledge no one else possessed. Lydia straightened victorious in her performance. 10 minutes until departure, she announced firmly. "If this passenger doesn't comply, federal air marshals will remove her and her child from the aircraft. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience as we maintain proper travel standards." Phones kept recording. Murmurs of approval rippled through the cabin. The narrative had been sealed in their minds. To them, Naomi Carter was a problem, an inconvenience, a woman who didn't belong in first class. But in the quiet space between Amara's slowing sobs and Naomi's steady breathing, something unseen stirred. A shift was coming, one that none of the passengers nor Lydia Moore herself could have imagined. Captain Harris appeared at the front of the cabin, his gold stripes glinting under the overhead lights. 20 years of command had taught him to project authority, and his voice carried across the rows with crisp precision. "What's the situation here, Lydia?" The flight attendant straightened, as if awaiting inspection. "Sir, this passenger has been disruptive since boarding. Her child has been screaming uncontrollably. She's refused multiple instructions and continues to delay our departure. I recommend immediate removal." Harris's gaze swept the scene quickly. A young black mother, an infant, a first-class seat. His mind, like so many others, clicked into the narrative Lydia had prepared. "Mom," he said firmly, "federal aviation regulations require compliance with crew instructions. If you do not cooperate, I'll have no choice but to remove you from this aircraft." The college student's TikTok livestream surged past 15,000 viewers. She whispered breathlessly into her phone, "The captain is here now. This is getting serious." Comments poured in. "She's done. They're gonna arrest her. Captain looks pissed. Bye, Felicia." Naomi adjusted Amara gently, her face calm, unreadable. She checked her phone discreetly. 8 minutes until departure. 8 minutes until something no one else in the cabin understood. Her stillness only fueled the frustration. The businessman slammed his laptop shut with a sigh. "This is absurd. Some of us have real business to attend to. Throw her off already." The elderly woman in pearls clucked her tongue. Captain, I've flown for 60 years. This kind of entitled behavior is exactly what's wrong with travel today. Lydia's confidence swelled with every approving voice. She stepped closer, her chin lifted high. Ma'am, one final warning. Gather your belongings and deplane voluntarily, or I'll request federal air marshals to escort you and your child off. Phones hovered eagerly. The live stream climbed to 25,000. Local news alerts pinged on screens across Nashville viral incident unfolding on Skylink Airways Flight 927. Still, Naomi did not rise. She kissed Amara's forehead softly, whispering something only her daughter could hear. Her composure unsettled even those who hated her. She wasn't panicking, wasn't pleading, wasn't resisting. She was waiting. Two men emerged from the galley plainclothes, but unmistakable to trained eyes. Federal air marshals, Rodriguez and Collins. Their presence transformed the situation from a passenger service dispute into a potential federal threat. Captain Rodriguez said carefully, his hand near his concealed holster. "What's the disturbance?" "Passenger non-compliance," Harris answered curtly. "Refusing crew instructions, delaying departure. We need immediate removal." The businessman lifted his phone, capturing the scene for his aviation forum. Witnessing discrimination in real time, he typed as he snapped photos. Within minutes, insiders across the industry were reading his post. Lydia grabbed the intercom, announcing with theatrical gravitas, "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay caused by an uncooperative passenger. Security will resolve this momentarily." Applause rippled through the cabin. Naomi's voice cut softly across the noise, clear and steady for the first time since boarding. "Ma'am, I understand you believe you're following protocol, but I would strongly suggest verifying my passenger status before taking irreversible action." Irreversible, Lydia laughed, incredulous. "Lady, the only thing irreversible here is your behavior. You think a fancy outfit and a fake ticket let you disrupt an entire flight." More laughter, more nods. The elderly woman leaned forward, shaking her head. "Absolutely shameful. Parents today have no sense." The college student whispered to her viewers, "Guys, this is insane." She's still calm. Like, too calm. Something's off here. Comments began to shift slightly. Why isn't she fighting back? She looks like she knows something. But those voices were drowned by the majority. Remove her already. Hero flight attendant. Discipline at last. The air marshals moved closer, their tone professional but stern. "Ma'am, we need you to gather your belongings and come with us voluntarily." Naomi looked up, her eyes unwavering. "I need exactly 5 more minutes." Captain Harris scoffed, his patience evaporating. "You need 0 minutes. This is a federal aircraft under my command. You are creating a safety hazard." Phones recorded every word. The live stream viewer count jumped past 32,000. National outlets picked it up. Mother refuses removal from Skylink flight. Security boarding now. Through the windows, airport security vehicles surrounded the plane. Blue lights strobed against the cabin walls. The weight of impending removal pressed down on every passenger. Officers, Harris barked to escort her off immediately. Naomi didn't flinch. She didn't clutch her child tighter in fear. She simply held Amara close, her lips brushing her daughter's soft hair. 4 minutes, she whispered. Passengers leaned forward, eagerly, phones raised high. They were ready for spectacle. They wanted the drama of security dragging her away. Rodriguez hesitated. Something in Naomi's calm unsettled him. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "if you have documentation, now would be the time." Rodriguez Harris snapped. "We don't negotiate with disruptive passengers. Remove her now." Lydia stepped forward triumphantly. This is exactly why protocols exist. Some people think they can manipulate situations with fake emergencies and social media theater, but not on my watch. Applause broke out. The elderly woman clapped. The businessman grinned. Phones shook as people tried to capture the perfect viral clip. Naomi adjusted her daughter again, her voice barely above a whisper, but carrying across the silence that followed the clapping. 3 minutes. Time's up, Harris barked. Officers proceed. Security moved in. The marshals positioned themselves. The businessman raised his phone higher. The live stream hit 38,000 viewers. But Naomi's eyes held a calm fire that made the sharpest observers falter. She wasn't resisting. She wasn't defeated. She was waiting. And as the marshals closed in, she reached for her phone with deliberate calm. Her thumb pressed a single contact, and she placed the call on speaker. "Hi, sweetheart," she said gently, her voice trembling only with maternal warmth. "I'm having some trouble on your airline." The voice that answered froze Captain Harris in his tracks. Deep, authoritative, familiar to anyone in the company. "Which aircraft, Naomi? I'll handle this personally." The cabin went silent. Passengers exchanged confused glances. Lydia blinked rapidly, her smile faltering. Naomi's response was calm, almost conversational. "Flight 927 first class. The crew is being creative with customer service." The voice that came through the speaker next carried ice and fury in equal measure. "This is Richard Carter, Chief Executive Officer of Skylink Airways. Everyone on that aircraft needs to step back from my wife immediately." Gasps rippled across the cabin like a shockwave. The live stream exploded past 45,000 as comments went berserk. "Plot twist, she's the CEO's wife. They're so fired." Holy Lydia's face drained of color. Harris stumbled back a step, authority collapsing in an instant. The passengers who had laughed and clapped fell silent, their phones trembling in their hands. Naomi rocked Amara gently, her dignity intact. The woman they had dismissed, insulted, and prepared to drag away, now owned their future. The silence in the first-class cabin was suffocating. Every passenger who had cheered a moment ago sat frozen and their faces pale, their phones trembling as the voice of Richard Carter, CEO of Skylink Airways, filled the air. "Captain Harris, Miss Moore." His tone was slow, deliberate, every syllable weighted with cold authority. "Step away from my wife immediately. Do not touch her. Do not speak another word to her. I will be reviewing this incident personally, and I do mean personally." Lydia's breath hitched, her confidence evaporating, as though someone had cut the strings holding her upright. She stumbled back toward the galley wall, her lips parting but no words forming. This can't be real," she whispered. "She's just a passenger. She's just—" Naomi adjusted Amara, pressing a soft kiss against her daughter's forehead. The baby cooed innocently, her tiny hand reaching toward the phone speaker as though recognizing her father's voice. Naomi's eyes swept the cabin calmly, almost serenely, as if she had always known it would come to this moment. Richard's voice grew colder. "Captain Harris, I am watching the live stream right now. Over 47,000 people just witnessed your crew physically assault my wife. Do you understand what that means?" The captain's throat bobbed as he tried to find his voice. "Mr. Carter, sir, this is a misunderstanding." Emotions were high, but a misunderstanding. Richard's fury cut like a blade. "I am watching my wife cradling our daughter slapped by one of your crew members while your passengers applauded, while you, Captain, threatened her with removal. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a catastrophe." Phones shook in guilty hands. passengers realized that their mocking comments, their approving claps, had all been recorded proof of complicity in humiliating the CEO's wife. The businessman who had sneered minutes earlier slowly lowered his phone, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Naomi reached into her carry-on and drew out the platinum card she had concealed earlier. The cabin lights glinted across embossed lettering, Mrs. Naomi Carter, First Family Skylink Airways. She held it up, her gaze meeting every lens that dared to record. Gasps erupted, whispers racing down the aisles like fire. Richard's voice thundered again. "Miss Moore, you laid hands on my wife. Do you know what federal law calls that assault on an aircraft? A felony. Do you know what happens to flight attendants convicted of felonies? They don't get demotions. They don't get warnings. They get prison." Lydia's knees buckled. Tears welled in her eyes. "Mr. Carter, please, I didn't know. I was trying to follow safety protocol. Show me the regulation," Richard snapped, "that authorizes a crew member to slap a mother holding an infant. Show me the law that allows you to humiliate a passenger because of your assumptions about who belongs in first class. Go on. Quote it to me." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. There was no law, no rule, no excuse. The livestream surged past 52,000 viewers. Comments poured in at breakneck speed. "She really is the CEO's wife. This is insane. Everyone who laughed is complicit. This is historic." The elderly woman in pearls sank into her seat, her face drained of dignity. Only moments earlier she had spoken about proper parents. Now she was realizing her words, captured on dozens of phones, would live forever in shame. Captain Harris tried once more. "Sir, if we could discuss this privately." Richard's laugh was bitter scalding. "Privately, Captain, 70,000 people are watching this in real time. The time for privacy ended when your crew decided to assault my wife on camera. The world is watching now." The video call shifted. Naomi's phone screen lit up with multiple faces appearing on a conference call, the Skylink Executive Board, the head of legal federal aviation officials. Their expressions were grim, furious, professional. "Ladies and gentlemen," Naomi said softly into the phone, her calm composure in stark contrast to the chaos around her. "Meet the leadership team of Skylink Airways. They've been watching this incident unfold from the start." Gasps filled the cabin. Passengers lowered their phones, some covering their faces, realizing the magnitude of what they had become part of. This was no longer a viral clip. This was history. Richard's face appeared clearly on the screen, his jaw tight, his voice measured like a man balancing on the edge of an erupting volcano. "Miss Moore, Captain Harris, effective immediately, you are both suspended pending federal investigation. Federal law enforcement will take custody of you upon deplaning." Lydia's tears spilled over. "Please, Mr. Carter, I have a family. I made a mistake." Naomi's voice, gentle but firm, cut across her plea. "No, Lydia, you made a choice, and choices have consequences." The live stream count climbed higher, 60,000, 65,000. Major news outlets cut into regular programming to broadcast the unfolding scandal. Hashtags trended globally. Stir Skylink scandal. Airline assault Orador Naomi Carter. Air Marshal Rodriguez slowly stepped back, his eyes wary. "Mr. Carter, sir, for the record, we were responding to crew reports. We had no knowledge of her identity." "Of course you didn't." Richard replied, his tone softening slightly. "That's the point. You shouldn't need to know her identity to treat her with basic dignity." Naomi held Amara a little closer, her eyes scanning the sea of guilty faces around her. Some passengers couldn't meet her gaze. Others fumbled to stop their recordings, but it was too late. The internet never forgets. The young college student with the TikTok stream whispered breathlessly to her audience. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. She's the CEO's wife. The flight attendant slapped her, and the whole world is watching. Richard's voice returned final and cold. This aircraft will not depart until federal investigators arrive. Every passenger will deplane, every recording will be preserved, and every single person responsible for this disgrace will face consequences. Naomi exhaled slowly, finally allowing the weight of the moment to ease from her shoulders. She kissed Amara's cheek, her calm dignity unshaken. The woman they had called entitled the mother they had judged had just rewritten the balance of power before their eyes, and the world watching live would never forget it. The aircraft doors remained open as federal investigators moved through the cabin with quiet authority. Cameras flashed from the terminal windows, news crews already jostling for position outside. The passengers deplaned one by one, their faces etched with the weight of shame and disbelief. Each step off the aircraft felt like stepping out of anonymity into the harsh spotlight of history. Naomi Carter stayed seated, Amara nestled peacefully against her chest, the chaos around them muted by the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. She had been the target of disdain, the object of scorn, and now the center of a storm that had exposed the airline industry's darkest undercurrents. Yet her expression remained calm, her dignity unbroken. Richard's voice echoed through her phone, no longer icy with fury, but steady, calculated. He was already in crisis command mode, speaking with federal officials, board members, and lawyers. His words were clipped efficient, each decision shaping the future of Skylink Airways. Effective immediately, he said, we implement the family protection protocol across our entire fleet. No crew member will ever again lay hands on a passenger without direct safety justification. Violations mean instant termination and federal charges. Legal counsel confirmed the measures were unprecedented in commercial aviation. Training would be mandatory. Bias awareness de-escalation and comprehensive passenger rights education would define the new standard. The passengers still seated in the rear listened in awe as history was written before their eyes. For decades, airlines had operated on an unspoken balance of power crew authority above all passengers expected to comply without question. That balance had shattered in a single slap recorded by dozens of phones and watched by tens of thousands in real time. Naomi finally rose from her seat, cradling Amara in one arm and steadying herself with the other. The weight of the moment pressed on her shoulders, but she carried it with a grace that silenced the whispers around her. Walking down the aisle, she passed faces pale with regret. The businessman who had sneered the elderly woman, who had mocked the passengers who had clapped. None dared meet her gaze. Outside, reporters swarmed microphones, raised cameras flashing. Questions collided in the humid air of the terminal. Mrs. Carter, what will happen to the crew? Mrs. Carter, how did you remain so calm? Mrs. Carter, do you believe this will change the industry? Naomi said nothing. She kissed her daughter's forehead and allowed security to escort her quietly away from the frenzy. Within hours, the incident dominated every news cycle. Footage replayed endlessly on television and across social media platforms. Commentators debated not just the slap, but the silence of the passengers, the complicity of applause, the deeper pattern of discrimination it revealed. Business analysts calculated losses in the billions, predicting Skylink's stock would collapse. Yet by the end of the week, the opposite happened. Richard Carter addressed shareholders in an emergency broadcast. He stood tall, his voice firm, his love for Naomi clear in every word. Today revealed systemic failures we can no longer ignore. Skylink Airways will become the industry standard for dignity in travel. Not because we choose to, but because we must. Investors initially panicked, recognized something rare. transparency instead of denial, responsibility instead of excuses. The stock dipped, then rallied stronger than before. Families of color, frequent travelers, and business leaders flooded the company with messages of support. Airlines around the world scrambled to follow suit. European carriers announced voluntary reforms within weeks. Asian airlines implemented their own family protection protocols. Training manuals across the globe began with a single case study, Naomi Carter, Flight 927. Meanwhile, Lydia Moore faced the consequences of her choices. Her mugshot, taken hours after the incident, spread across headlines. The flight attendant who had slapped the CEO's wife. 8 years of service collapsed into federal charges: assault on an aircraft, civil rights violations, child endangerment. No airline would ever hire her again. Captain Jonathan Harris's career ended just as abruptly. Stripped of his stripes, his pilot's license revoked, he faced charges of willful negligence and complicity in assault. 22 years of authority evaporated in the span of one afternoon. For the passengers, the reckoning was quieter, but no less heavy. Their faces and voices, captured on live streams, became symbols of complicity. Some lost jobs when their comments surfaced online. Others issued apologies that rang hollow against the clarity of video evidence. The world had seen them cheer injustice, and there was no erasing it. But for Naomi, the legacy was not about punishment. It was about change. 6 months later, she stood on a stage accepting the National Civil Courage Award. She spoke simply, her voice steady, her daughter perched on her hip. Dignity should not require wealth or power. But on that day it did. Now, because we all watch together, it doesn't anymore. Not for me. Not for my daughter. Not for any family who chooses to fly. The applause that followed was different from the hollow clapping she had endured on the aircraft. This was genuine, reverent recognition, not of power, but of principle. Richard and Naomi established the Family Travel Foundation, a nonprofit providing legal support to passengers facing discrimination. Within 2 years, the foundation handled hundreds of cases, winning every single one. Airlines knew that families now had the resources to fight back, and they adjusted accordingly. Cultural change followed swiftly. Crew greetings shifted from commands to questions. How can I make your family more comfortable? Training emphasized empathy over authority. The phrase "people like you," once whispered in disdain, disappeared from the vocabulary of service. Naomi became a symbol beyond aviation. Universities studied her calm composure as a model for conflict resolution. Business schools dissected Richard's transparency as a case study in crisis leadership. Civil rights organizations pointed to the incident as proof that quiet strength could upend systemic injustice. Amara, too young to remember the slap that had changed everything, grew up surrounded by a new culture of respect. Flight crews competed to serve her family, eager to demonstrate the change her mother had inspired. She became the face of reform, a child once dismissed as a screaming brat, now a reminder that every child deserves dignity. The aircraft where the incident occurred was refitted, transformed into Skylink's flagship. Advanced recording equipment and new technology designed to detect bias in crew behavior were installed. It became a moving symbol of reform, a testament to how one act of prejudice had been turned into a force for accountability. Years later, when Harvard Business School taught the case study of Skylink Airways, students marveled at the woman who had endured public humiliation with grace, who had chosen dignity over outrage, composure over retaliation. They learned that true power came not from position, but from principle. And Naomi Carter, once just another mother boarding a plane with her infant, became something larger, a symbol of quiet resistance, a reminder that even in the face of prejudice, dignity could change the world. She never raised her voice, never lashed out. She simply held her daughter, endured, and waited. And in that waiting, in that unbreakable composure, she transformed an entire industry.